Former President Jacob Zuma has been granted parole, but the Democratic Alliance has released or says that his release reeks of political interference. Now, KwaZulu-Natal saw violent protests and looting, which started soon after he was arrested. The ANC in that province has been behind calls for Zuma's release. Joining me now to talk to us about this issue is the chairperson of the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal, who also doubles up as Premier, Sihle Zikalala. Premier, thank you very much for your time. Let's just get your reaction first and foremost to the news breaking this hour that the National Freedom Party leader, Zanele Msibi, has passed on.
No, thanks, Xoli. Let me extend my greetings to you and all viewers. On behalf of the African National Congress and on behalf of the government of KwaZulu-Natal and the people of KwaZulu-Natal as a whole, we wish to express our sadness as we get this shocking news that the leader of the National Freedom Party, Ms. Zanele Msibi, has passed on. We have worked with her and the NFP since 2011 local government elections. We work together with great respect, supporting each other and ensuring that our cooperation is anchored on development of the people. We know her even for her role while she was in the IFP as a member of, as a mayor of Zululand District Municipality, where she left an indelible remark in servicing people, being close to the people, and always being with them. We send our condolences to her family, as well as to the leadership and the membership of the National Freedom Party, the NFP.
Premier, I'm going to ask you if you could indulge me for a second while we bring on the line the person who speaks on behalf of the National Freedom Party, Mr. Kenan Mdletshe. Mr. Mdletshe, thank you very much for your time. We know that Ms. Msibi had been ill for some time. Are you able to confirm to us the circumstances which led to her passing?
Good morning, Oli, and greetings to the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, Honorable Zikalala. Yes, I can confirm that Msibi passed on in the early hours of this morning, which is a very devastating news for the organization and the people of KwaZulu-Natal and South Africa in general. Yes, she was in hospital, and the doctors tried everything to manage her life, but unfortunately she succumbed to cardiac arrest.
Yes. And this news, Mr. Mdletshe, I assume that Msibi was still a leader of the NFP. Are you able to tell us how this is going to affect the party, so to speak?
Definitely, losing a leader is in any respect going to affect the organization. In particular, the NFP, considering that Msibi is the founder of the organization, and she has been the president of the NFP since 2011. And in 2019, we had our conference where she was re-elected unanimously. So it's going to affect the organization, and I can tell you right now, our members are very devastated. Actually, most of them were calling me literally crying. They were weeping. You could tell the effect of this to them, and it's going to affect us, in particular, as we are going to the elections. And we are going to campaign under, although we are still under the lockdown regulations, but we're going to campaign with her. She was going to lead our campaigns across the KwaZulu-Natal, and actually our program was going to start in the next 2 weeks, where she was going to lead us, and we are devastated. It's going to, I don't have words to express how one feels at the moment.
Yeah, sadly, it is shocking news indeed. Mr. Mdletshe, let's leave it there. Condolences, not just to your party, but indeed the family of Ms. Makwaza Msibi. Premier, Sihle Zikalala, hopefully you are still with us. Thank you very much for your indulgence. Let's talk then about the reasons we asked you to join us for this conversation. KZN was deeply affected after the arrest of the former President Jacob Zuma. Yesterday he was released on grounds of medical parole. Your reaction as the African National Congress in the province of KwaZulu-Natal?
Well, we welcome the release of the former president who, after being incarcerated, started serving his sentence but was hospitalized, which shows that his life was not that stable. And therefore, the decision that he must be taken home and recuperate from home, for us, it is a sober and a correct decision that should be supported. But we would not want to turn this into a political issue where it is perceived, as other parties are beginning to say, as if there is favoritism or selective approach, because his life has not been well. We also know at some point he had to travel to Cuba, and at some point he was hospitalized around here in the country. So anything that will then suggest otherwise must be viewed in terms of how the situation have unfolded.
Yeah. Premier, you will forgive me for persisting on the line of questioning around the release of the former president. Yes, indeed, sensitivities around the health of the former president. I think the health of the former president is well publicized. As you mentioned, he went to Cuba at some point for medical reasons. The issue of contention here, Premier, is that the correctional services processes may have been compromised. That's what some view, or that's how some view this decision. Let me ask you this question. How much discussion was there in the ANC, particularly at NEC level, around the former president's continued incarceration?
The ANC structures cannot and have never discussed issues of incarceration of the former president, except to say that we sympathize with him and the family because of this situation. But the NEC can't discuss issues of this nature because we respect the independence of structures that oversee the judiciary processes. We respect judiciary as it is, but also we respect the departments, including correctional services, which is responsible for ensuring rehabilitation of the offenders, and therefore we will not be able to engage with details of issues that happens in departments.
Yeah, Premier, some are saying that the reason they view this with suspicion, and again, I want to be clear, the reason they view the processes of correctional services with suspicion around the release of the former president on medical parole is that they have been, for lack of a better word, compromised before, given that Schabir Shaik is out in the streets, and that has been viewed as unfair because he continues to be with us, and yet we were told as a country that his health was failing to a point that he was actually terminally ill. I guess what is of major concern, Premier, is that the Commissioner of Correctional Services is someone who is said to have enjoyed a close relationship with the former president, Jacob Zuma, and that's Mr. Arthur Fraser. Are you able to tell South Africans with a reasonable confidence that the systems of correctional services have not been manipulated to favor a political heavyweight?
Well, I think what we need to consider here is a specific case, and that specific case relates to the health of former president. And in this regard, we all knew, even before he was incarcerated, that he was not well. And therefore, it comes as something that we should expect, that a person of his age with unstable health conditions should be released and cannot be kept for a longer period in prison. With regard to the issue of the commissioner, I can't speak on behalf of the commissioner, nor want to insinuate that he is part of anything that talks to selective or favoritism. But we know that for a fact, former President Zuma has not been well. And even when he was still president, at some point, we knew he wasn't well. He had to go for treatment. Whereas now that he is at this advanced age. And I think it would be correct to back ourselves and the public in general to accept the reality. If people get old, they tend to be sick, and that must be taken into cognizance in dealing with anything.
Premier, I'm completely out of time, but let me squeeze this last question in, and very briefly for me, if you can. Now that the former president goes home on medical parole, some are saying that this is a welcome relief, particularly for your political activities in the province as the ANC. This had caused some tension. Are you able to tell us whether you expect him to address any of the activities in the lead up to local government elections?
No, I wouldn't want to say we expect him to address any activity. Remember that he will still be at home and he will still have conditions attached up until he serve and finish his sentence. And it is important that that be respected, because there is a department which needs to ensure that all of those issues are followed accordingly. What for now comforts us is that he is released, he is going to be with his family, and we believe he will be taken care of and recover.
That's the chairperson of the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal, who doubles up as Premier of that province, Sihle Zikalala. Thank you very much for your time.